Hi there. Another story for you. Want you to think back to a time in the 60s. I had just started to meet a friend. Um, I was at a Christmas tree lot. A friend of mine was selling Christmas trees. I was at that lot. My friend and his girlfriend were at that lot. And we smoked some weed, we drank some hot chocolate, and if I remember correctly, we dropped LSD and spent the night on the lot with the trees. In fact, we spent most of the night under the trees, looking at people, watching things, watching cars drive by, things like that. We were taking care of the lot for our friend. But we sat and had a great time, had a good discussion, and we became friends, really good friends. Later on, my friends had a party at their upstairs apartment, and I went and we had we took lots of LSD. There was probably 30 of us, somewhere around there, and we had good music. We had fun. We laughed. We giggled. I don't remember if we ate any food or not. I know that at one point a friend of mine was eating candy, and when he dropped the bag of candy that he was eating candy from, instead of going down, it flew sideways, hit the wall, and exploded, throwing candy everywhere. And everybody looked over at him, and he was sitting there. His name was Bruce, and he just goes, I just dropped that. I don't know. I don't know how it got over there." And we all laughed because I watched it happen, and he did just drop it, and the bag just flew sideways instead of dropping down. One of those funny things that happens when you do LSD. Um, Later on, I was, because I'd taken a lot, I went in and laid down on their bed and was tripping, staring at the ceiling and watching all the things going around. When this fellow came in, kind of a thug, and I was unhappy with him because he had, using my name, he had taken money from somebody and then kept the money and didn't give him the weed that he said he was going to come over and get from me to give to them. I had a reputation at the time of having good weed. We sold a lot. I say we because my roommates all, that's how they paid their share of the rent, was they would go out and get weed for their friends, doing favors for their friends, doing favors for me. So, and I would make 60 or 100 bags of weed a day, and people would go out and sell them. I had 20 people living there. So if each one sold 1 or 2 bags a day, that was a lot of weed. Anyway, this fellow come in and he wanted me to give him some LSD. And I told him no. And I told him no why. I said, you ripped somebody off using my name, and that's not acceptable. And it's not acceptable for you to come and ask me to give you weed or me to give you LSD or sell you LSD. I want nothing to do with you. I don't have anything to do with people that rip people off. And that was the way I felt, and of course he just reached down and grabbed me by the front of my shirt and lifted me up off the bed and pulled a gun out of his pocket, stuck it to my head, and he said, "Give me some fucking LSD or sell me some fucking LSD or I'm going to shoot you right now." And I just looked at him and said, "No, I am not giving you anything. I am not selling you anything. You owe somebody some money. You owe them an apology. When you've done that, you can come back and talk to me. Until then, stay the fuck away from me." Just then, my friend Harry came in. It was his apartment. And he goes, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Gene doesn't seem to understand why I don't want to sell him or give him LSD. He's a bummer and he's a thief. He stole money from somebody using my name. I'm not going to give him any LSD. That's all there is to it." And Gino sat there and he goes, well, you know. And then he looked around and realized there was probably 10 or 15 people staring at him. And so he let go of my shirt and dropped me back onto the bed. And he said, well, okay, we'll deal with this another time. And he walked out, left the party. Harry asked me if I was okay, and I said, yes, I am. Thank you very much. Got up, and I was a little dizzy because I was really high. But we smoked a little weed, and then somebody else came back in and said, hey, the house is being watched. The police are across the street. So a couple of people went downstairs, went around the back way, came around the block, and looked, and indeed, there was undercover police cars parked close by on both sides of the apartment. So they came back and said, yeah, the police are here, they're watching. So we all thought about it and said, hey, you know, let's surprise them. Let's put some signs up. We'll take the drugs outside. We'll put it outside in the yard or something. And it seems to me that that's what we did. I think I took my acid out, and I think either that or we ate it all. Hell, I can't remember now. It's been a long time. Anyway, we put all the signs up and stuff asking, are you clean, with a bar of soap taped to the walls and saying, no drugs here. Please, please, no drugs here. And things like that. All taped to the walls. Then we went outside to see if we could invite the police up. And they were gone. Didn't have to deal with it. Didn't have to think about it. Nothing else. And you know, that story, it's funny. You know, we had a good time that night. We had a great party. But there's numerous times where I have been in a house where the police were watching. And I went ahead and at one point bought a bag of kilos, I think 11 kilos, 10 or 11 kilos, and off of a shipment that apparently had been followed to the house. And then I walked out to put the kilos in the trunk of my car and got in, started the car, drove away, figuring, because I was driving right by the police, figuring I'd probably get stopped and busted. But no, they didn't stop me, they didn't bust me, and I got a good price on the kilos. I drove away and went home, you know. That was my friends Mike and Treesloth. Then, and another time I went to Santa Barbara when they were rioting and burning the banks and shit. I went up there and delivered a bunch of kilos and picked up a bunch of LSD and drove back through. And that, I mean, the city was ringed with police cars because they burned the Bank of America. And I drove through all that, never got stopped, never got looked at. And I was driving a 41 Chevy, two-door sedan. Should have been stopped, you know, but no, I didn't. Of course, I didn't look like a hippie back then. I was pretty straight-laced the way I drove and stuff. But many of the time I've done that. Many's the time. And I've always felt, because every time I was arrested, I always knew I was going to get arrested. And I've always felt that if you're in a situation where you think you're going to be arrested, stop doing anything illegal. Don't be a dumbass. Otherwise, go ahead. If you don't feel like you're going to be arrested, you probably aren't. It's always good to know. Something to keep in mind. Thank you. Please subscribe, comment, leave things, you know, leave a name and a way to contact you or something. Just please. I always have trouble turning this phone off. Don't know why.